Hello world! Patricia O'Connor and one Frida Reba Darcy by my side as I try to shimmy my way in here. This is the bonsai balcony, and as you see, I've got my 20 tree Kotohime maple forest. I had already started doing a little cleanup on this guy with my little skewers, which is pretty much my favorite tool. I have a scythe with me to do this. A scythe, which I believe is an asparagus knife, an asparagus chopper downer or something. Anyway, I have that, and whenever I first saw the need for that tool and I started to order one, I was also wondering why I didn't see this more often. When it comes time to break loose around the lip of the pot, this is what you see a lot of people use. I've never seen anybody use this, but I often wondered why they hadn't. I've used it a couple of times and it works really good. Also, after you've used this or your knife or a butter knife or something to break loose that feel around the pot, you can kind of work underneath it and use this to help lift the root ball from out of the pot. So I found both of those tools to be helpful when it comes to that. I also have some scissors that I probably won't need, some pruners that I probably won't need. I have my hemp broom that I probably will need, and I have the skewers that I mentioned earlier. So I'm kind of going through here and cleaning off the top. I'm also going to make a lap around the pot, continue to make a lap around the pot with the sickle or the scythe, whatever you're used to hearing these things called. And we're just basically going to clean this guy up, lift up this whole thing, do some cleanup of the bottom, put some new substrate down. I've got some Boon mix here that I will be using for that. I've been using Boon mix for everything, basically until I run out. And I think I'll probably order more of that. I might break it up and order some more akadama. I like doing the akadama too. Don't these guys look pretty? They look kind of bare though. I'm not really. I kind of look up and go, oh my, look at the haircut. Kind of like. So it'll be nice when they've. We're gonna have to see this for a couple of months. It will though. It'll be nice whenever the cypress trees start to bud out again. Golly, what is that? It's like an alien. It's a plant though. I'm not seeing some creepy bug or something in here. There is a spider. I hope I don't mess with him too much. He's a welcome participant in this little forest. As far as I know, we have one little leafhopper, and that guy, I didn't get hardly any of the roots to that monster plant. But that guy is welcome to stay as long as he wants. So this is kind of what I'm going to be doing for the next couple of minutes. This is a good time while I have it right here, still sort of behaving. I'm just using both ends of my skewer to clear back all this moss. People have asked me before what I'm using for muck in this, or what type of muck I used, or what is my muck of choice. When I started this forest, I didn't know what muck was. No, literally didn't know what muck was. This is the substrate that these trees came in, and I had ordered this pot with this planting in mind. The pot is a Tokonoma Japanese pot, and I ordered it so that I could make this forest in keeping with my rookie mistakes. This is another nice pot, and beginner bonsai, right? So this would be a couple of cheap trees and an expensive pot would be one. But they have given me a lot of bonsai joy. This is a nice pot. It cleans up pretty well when I do clean it up. And so what I basically did was I got 20 trees and I planted, I think, 19 of them, and then lost one and replaced it, and then had a tree come up, what we used to say in the South, came up volunteer. So I am now at 20 trees, having planted 20 and lost one. I'm still at 20. So yeah, that was good. Kind of one step forward, one step back there. Look out, Frida. Right, here you go, babe. For dodging all that stuff, you did really great. There you go. Little, you can't see it, I don't think, but a little, that little propeller butt, his tail is just going. Okay, so I don't know how much more of this I'm going to do before I start doing the old bottoms up to this. And what I'd like to do is take this hill down some. I'm not going to disturb these trees a whole lot if I can help it. It's not the idea. But I would like to flatten this out some. It got a little misshapen over time as these root masses started, as these root balls began to grow together and make that mat, which is exactly what I wanted them to do. They began to have their own say over the shape of the mound, and as that all began to fill up, she just dumping dirt off on herself like she doesn't know any better. And as that mound began to build up, it began to heave more on one side or the other, and then maybe that and seeing some substrate roll off because it wasn't muck would cause me to throw a little sand or something else in there. So it's had its different obstacles that would affect how this thing was shaped. And it wasn't the most unnatural shape. It kind of did look like an embankment out in the woods where you see a grove of trees. And also, I like the way our trunks are coming along. You can see from the last time in the cleanup, I went through here and pruned a lot of this back pretty well, and I'm happy with the way all these little trees are going. So I would like for this. I'd like for this to sit further down in the pot when I'm done. So I'd like to take a little off the bottom, and then take a little more off the bottom, and then replace some of that with new, and then set us back down in there looking a little more groomed and ready for spring. I'm pretty happy with the work that I've done to the oaks, and I'm pretty happy with the work that I've done to the bald cypress trees and the dawn redwood. So far, I would say all those guys are ready for next year already, which is a good feeling when you know some of y'all are doing things to get ready, in that you're getting ready for foul weather. I've been watching some of my contemporaries' videos, and y'all were battening down the hatches for some of these winter storms that are coming. Yeah, golly, that's scary sighting all at the same time. Here in California, where it kind of stays warm, I'll look at cold and go, I don't know how you do it. We're cold here when it's 60s, 50s. Yeah, anyway. there's a lot of people that go skiing and stuff. Not all of us are, but I've always thought that I was more geared for too hot rather than too cold. It can be quite hot before I'll think it's too hot, but it doesn't have to be that cold for me to think that it's too cold. It's just kind of the way I've always been. So, and that's kind of, we are getting a winter this year, which is pretty encouraging. Last year, I wouldn't say that about the year. That was pretty light. I would say some of my trees, I'm not even totally sure they went into dormancy, but I don't think I have that to worry about as much this year. All the trees you can tell when they slow down, and they've all done pretty much that without exception. Man, I'm getting so much root flare out of this guy because of the lack of knowledge on that. Meant that I didn't use muck, and because I didn't use muck, I got a lot of erosion out of from around the base of this tree right here, and that is just, that little bit of ignorance has just played right into my hands. That little bit of hardship has caused those the base of those roots to be exposed. But I guess they stayed covered long enough to only get exposed. I guess I have to drop something. But I guess they survived long enough, covered long enough to where when they were exposed, they could handle it. So I've got this root base that's just flared. You know, it's got a root base like that, and the tree is just literally a twig. With hips for days. It's just, yeah. So sometimes knowing what you're doing, it's really rewarding when you see things going the way you want to. And then sometimes it's kind of like that happy accident thing. There were quite a few happy accidents. One, forests are pretty easy. You can take so-so trees, and if you range them chaotically, basically, to where they're not an orchard, they'll settle it out, and some of them will be a rule I broke with all of these trees were all seedlings, and they were all started probably in the same batch. They couldn't have been any closer to the same size trees, but going on 2 years, and their sizes and shapes and heights and trunk thicknesses are more of a reflection of a hierarchy that they've established amongst themselves in the time that they've spent with these limited resources than me having trees that are a year along or 6 months along, and some of them that are less farther along, which is typically how you would do it. Also, having your biggest trees center and your smaller trees fading off to the end to simulate that depth is something to give thought to, as well as if you have a lot of trees that are crooked in a way that you don't, or if you have a few trees that are crooked in a way that you don't think that helps you, pick a front for your pot, and then match the front of your pot to the front of what you think your forest is going to be, and then turn any trees whose shape you think is unflattering, any twists or something that you don't think goes with what you're doing, turn them in such a way as they look straight from the front angle, and you'll be amazed. That's kind of maybe not what you've been doing in a while. You'll expect great things already, but yeah. So yeah, these guys pretty much do themselves. When it comes time to repot them, you won't see me go digging up individual trees. It's kind of not the thing we do here. The point to this will be more to take it up as a oval shaped slab of root mass and give it a good tease. Cut back some of the stuff there to give us room to grow, and then put some new substrate down, and then drop and then drop our cleaned up root ball right back where it was, and give it a little clean up, and a little water, and start anew. And that's actually quite a bit easier than what we do for individual, than what a lot of times what we're doing for our individual specimen trees. So that's kind of what this was one of my, there was several trees that I've been working on the past couple of weeks, and I said this was the first one I got that was actually a bonsai whenever I was doing my cork bark oak, and whenever I was pruning back my coastal oak, I'm like, this was my first finished tree. The idea is to not mess this up, and this was my first. I too can make a bonsai project, and I decided going in that nothing but the best for my bonsai projects, and I decided that knowing absolutely jack squat about bonsai. I don't know how I was going to make this the best bonsai project in the history of ever without knowing jack squat about it. But I would say that my heart was in the right place, and even if I did put 19 starters in a really nice, fairly pricey Japanese bonsai pot. It's called over-potted. Yes, over-potted. Pat over-potted this. But they've been together now a couple of years. I'm gonna totally own that I did that. But I've also gotten a lot of pleasure out of this. It looks really nice certain times of the year. And it looks, and the whole thing where it does itself. But I have had to weed it quite a bit, and it hadn't stayed that weeded very long. These guys have certainly got my number this year. It's like if I hadn't weeded it in 3 days, it needed weeding, basically. Yeah, I guess I'm gonna have to just try to find some weeds I like and maybe let them overgrow. Maybe that seems kind of like a hard way to go. All right, that's about all of the raking I'm gonna do here, as far as just set out to rake. A lot more of this stuff will probably get cleaned up as I'll lift this root mass out of here and get it going. A little sip of coffee courage, and a little. Where's that dog at? So, one thing that makes it nice about this is this pot doesn't have a lip. They can be really attractive when they have an inner lip on them. That makes it so hard to. That makes it a little harder sometimes to get the root mass out of the pot. So I was lucky in that I didn't know, that was one thing I didn't know not to do when this started, but I didn't know to look for that, but dodge that bullet, I would say. And I am like that. I try not to buy pots that have inward lips, because I don't want to get a pot that I really like and then tear up the root ball and or tear up the pot that I really like, trying to get it out with that lip on it. This is where I think this guy might come in handy. Let's see how I do. Oh, one thing I didn't do at the beginning was lift this pot by one corner and go underneath and cut the wires. I don't think I have any wires underneath here, but I better check before we get started. Yes, we have no wires. Looks pretty good underneath here. Okay. Yes, we have no wires. Okay, as you were, Patricia. I'll try to go in here. Oh yeah, I already saw most of the mound move right there. I think I'd like to do that in a few places. And see if I can, like, I'm trying to make sure that all the cookies aren't stuck to the bottom of the brownie dish, kind of a thing. And sensing, well, maybe it's the weight of the center of this. Here we go. Also encouraging, I propped this whole end up, and when I did, the whole thing came up, and then it stayed propped up with no more than, it stayed up with no more. Yeah, look at that. This is a really, really, really good solid root mass. Where are we going with it? So there we have it. You see what I'm holding here? A lot easier than individually replanting all of these trees. Set this off to the side, set this guy down here, set our pot down on the ground. We've got to get rid of this substrate and wash out the pot and give the pot a good hoosing. All right, you've heard me go on about scissors. This is a good time for these guys because we are going to be down here in the muck, as they say. Everything's still pretty moist down here. So far I haven't laid any chops into the fingers, which is a good start. Really nice looking root growth. There was still some akadama down in the bottom that I have to say didn't look totally spent. It'll still go. I'll still put it in my cement mixer tub for now. Let all that stuff dry out. I can let it dry out completely, and then rake out any leaves or needles or whatever else that could be in there. I never use anything. I never keep anything from a tree that was in iffy shape. But if I've got something like this where I had some substrate at the bottom of it, I don't mind throwing that. I don't mind throwing that in my tub and using that for seedlings or you know, other projects. So yeah. So a little rotate. Let's do that again on this side. I had originally worried about how long I was going to have to wait to get this thing to form that mat like that. I was, you know, I kind of wanted to go in there and look last year. but because I didn't do the muck thing, I had to give these guys a little longer than I wanted to, and I didn't have to. I mean, I still had, like I said, we still had substrate that had room to burn. You know, this is still, that's still pretty substantial stuff there. It's not really broken down from, I would say this is not really broken up, but it wasn't akadama. It was red brick, like cinder. And tiny river rock too. I didn't realize that. I'm just kind of looking at it. Pebbles. Pebbles, Frida. So yeah, we're giving this a little prune, and then we're giving it a little prune, a little tease. I cut back all the loose stuff that was already leaping out of the substrate. It was already that the roots had let go, all that loose stuff. A lot of the substrate had already come loose from down here, is what I'm saying, which allowed me to cut back probably a third of it. Not a ton. I didn't really weaken this mass, this root mass, I would say. Give it some of this. And while we're here, this is what I normally hadn't been doing. Going to be seeing where we stand on, you know, I don't smell anything that would indicate too much water. The roots do look good down here. It's a lot of root growth, a lot of new root growth. Cut back a little bit more of that here in a second. It doesn't feel overly fragile. This tree is probably the most fragile of the group, which would stand to reason. It's the one that got replaced last year. So it's had the least time to set in. All right, now here's what we're gonna do here. I've got this pretty well cleaned up. I've got a little bit more to do up here. I need to clean out this pot. So this is going to be right here. This is going to be part 2. And I'm going to stop it right here. And then I'll probably clean that up a little bit more, maybe a teeny. I think you won't miss anything more than what you've just been seeing me just doing a little bit cleaner in here. And then I'm going to take this to the sink after I've got it free of substrate, and then maybe clean up the set a little bit, and then we'll start, and I'll keep everything moist here in the meantime, and then we'll start chapter 3. So thank you so much for watching. This guy haven't thrown us any curves so far. This has all been pretty straightforward and very encouraging. And like and subscribe if you have not already. I appreciate you, and Frida appreciates you. And I will see you guys on part 3 of repotting our Kotohime maple forest. That was the fastest spin around in the history of ever. All right, she's gonna weave her way over here, crawl her way over here,